Marker.
Louder than that.
Marker.
Oh, bye. Marker.
Why? I can't do that. Okay. Welcome back to episode 2 of the Logging Off podcast, now with an official name. We were wrong. We liked the idea of what are we doing here, but it was not a good acronym and it was too long. And yeah, we wanted to center it more on, I think, closer to the objective of this podcast, which is, it's related to gaming and the internet sphere, but it's also about just like connecting back with real life and people and humans and stuff. So I hope you like it.
I think what are we doing here was ultimately just like a imposter syndrome thing.
Yeah.
Like of being podcasters.
Yeah. You can see we're in a very different place than the last time.
Yep.
Those of you who are watching. The last podcast, the first episode, was actually filmed almost 3 months ago, possibly even more than 3 months ago. Yeah, I don't even know what happened between then and now.
Well, we moved.
Well, yeah, we moved. That's the biggest reason for sure. We moved from an apartment into a house. So we are currently in our house. There's your espresso machine going off if you heard that. Yeah, that took up a lot of time. But now we're here. This should be our permanent placement for the podcast recording. Plus some decorations, hopefully, in the background.
Yes.
So, yeah, we moved it to a house. Still unpacking, still decorating.
I think when we were in New York, we hadn't even like found or applied. I think we found it like shortly after we got back.
Yeah, it was very sudden. We were kind of in like we'd been at the apartment we were at before for a very long time, relatively to how long we've been at most places.
Half our marriage.
So. Yeah, half our marriage. That's a pretty long time. Didn't really think that we were going to be able to find a place to either rent or buy. And we're kind of, I don't want to say we're losing hope, but more just kind of resigned to being at the apartment until we were like ready to blow the big bucks on a buying a home. And then this house came up. It was perfect. We toured it quickly. Well, it actually took a while to tour it.
Yeah,
but
it took a while.
Once we toured it, we
applied quickly.
We applied quickly.
Yes.
And moved quickly in a week and a half total from when we signed our lease. That's when we were in this house. So kind of a whirlwind, but we're here and now you can expect regular uploads from us on Wednesday, not Thursday. I said, it will be on Wednesday.
Yep.
On Spotify and Apple Music as well. Sorry, the first episode was not on right away.
Apple Podcasts.
Apple Podcast. And thank you to the not sponsor of today's episode, Liquid Death. The most hydrating, psychotic can of tea lemonade with agave and B vitamins to savagely murder your thirst.
Wow, you're doing all that for free?
Liquid Death, we love you. Yes, for free.
You're a better man than me.
For now. So, we are in a 3-bedroom now, which is a pretty big deal.
First time.
Yes. Your first time living in a house.
First time 3-bedroom, long time 2-bedroom resident.
Yes. So this is significant for a lot of reasons, but it's significant because it's Joshua's first time having an office.
Yeah.
So what's that been like?
It's been really good so far. I mean, I feel like in the past, what has it been, like a month now?
Yeah.
I've probably pumped out more content, like more meaningful content than I have in the last 2.5 years.
Yeah.
So half of my office space is a podcast space. So we could film in there, but it would be wildly out of context.
Yes.
There would be comic book movie posters and comics on the wall.
Yes.
So yeah, I kind of had this idea some time ago to start a comic book podcast, mostly because, well, partly because I just love comics, but mostly because your dad and I can sit and talk comics for a long time.
And they do.
And we do.
And it normally happens at dinner, and me and my mom just kind of look at each other like.
And so, yeah, I don't know, there just came a point in him and I talking about that stuff where I was just like, I feel like we're losing money doing this.
That these words are leaving our mouths and just disappearing into the air.
No, not actually the money aspect, but like I just felt like we're like other people can gain a lot of value from what's being said.
Yeah.
So yeah, your dad is like a 30-year long collector, or since the 80s. So that's probably
incredible memory too.
80, 90, 2000, 2010. So your dad's been collecting for 40 years, which is longer than I've been alive. And obviously he's had his like, as in like when you collect anything or like into anything, like you're into it heavy for a season, you're out of it for a season, you know, is what it is. So for 40 years, your dad's been in and out, but still he brings that 40 years of knowledge in the hobby, in the comic space to the table. And so there's a lot that I've learned from him. And I say that's probably like one of the one of the first things that I thought was like, this is like a well of like knowledge for comic books. And I'm the only one hearing it.
Right.
So yeah, so that was pretty much the beginning of that idea. And I kind of like threw it out to him like randomly. And he was like, yeah, that'd be fun. But realistically, like we didn't have the space to film or record it, and I wasn't going to impose it on like, hey, let's record at your house. Like I'm just I'm not that kind of person. So it just kind of was sitting waiting, and then this place happened, and that was essentially like the first thing that I did was I got
he was in his office setting stuff up. Like I barely saw him the first couple days that we moved in, and the first room that was completely unboxed was his office. Yeah. And it's like a museum in there. It's like not I guess we're advertising a second podcast on this podcast. But
do I have to pay for ad space?
But yes, if you're into comics and would like to hear Joshua and my dad talk about the hobby and current events, we can link that in the description. Yeah. And, you know, a lot of you guys know Joshua both as my husband, but also as Genshin and Star Rail content creator. You've shifted away from that primarily.
Yeah, a little bit.
And moving here, moving into his own office space, having his own office space has sent you into fully committing to comic, not just the podcast, but comic content creation. Like, what are the other types of videos that you've been doing? Just so they know what you're up to.
Yeah, so I was doing Genshin Honkai stuff mostly just because it made sense, not because I necessarily wanted to, but because it made sense. And I think that mixed with like, so if you guys watch my streams in the past, then you know that my streaming area and my desk was in our bedroom. And so if you go to any of my YouTube channels on my Spro channel, you can see the bedroom behind. And so that was hard having a creative like space, just because the place that you work being in the same bedroom that you sleep just makes for a lot of weird like feelings and emotions, like both when you're trying to go to sleep and when you're trying to like be creative.
Right. Absolutely.
So I feel like one of the ways that I kind of dealt with that was doing comic book content. And that's because all the content that I was filming for that was outside of the house primarily.
Oh, right. Or in the living room or up on the roof or something like that.
So it initially started with comic book vlogs, and the first video I ever uploaded to the channel got 10,000 views, which was...
Oh, right.
I was shocked by
such a good feeling.
Yeah. And so it was a comic book vlog, and I pretty much... I don't like to... So I'm not bashing on any comic book creator, but I think the comic book content creation space is far behind as far as like innovation and creativity.
Yeah.
It's very like early days of YouTube and like still. And I think primarily that's just because a lot of the creators are a little bit older. Like I'm probably one of the younger ones, if not the like youngest one who's actually like trying, not just like, you know, there's people who just like upload and they have a great time uploading and like they don't care about it. But as far as people who are actually trying, I genuinely might be the youngest.
Wow.
So, because at least everybody in the comic space that I watch, I at least get the feeling that they're older than me.
Do you think that's a little bit of imposter syndrome though?
No, I think because I keep like they talk about like their kids and just like look wise, like you can certainly tell with some creators that they're older.
Well, I guess that makes sense because it's a long-term hobby. Can be quite an expensive hobby.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, I wouldn't say it's unpopular with younger people, but it's more popular.
Yeah. So I pretty much was just like looking at the space and I was like, there's a lot of room for growth in this space to like push boundaries. And so I pretty much what I did is I got a chest strap camera that people use for biking.
It looks like a Unabomber vest.
Yeah, it's like to record their like BMXers going through like trail or mountain bikers like going through trails and stuff, or like motorcyclists. Like it's a chest strap for that, and so I brought it with me to WonderCon in 2023, and it was just like the perfect POV angle to record going through boxes, and so people loved it because a lot of the comments were like, hey, I live in rural, enter country or state. There's like nothing comic conventions anywhere near. So like, this makes me feel like I'm there. Thanks for like making this type of video. Or like other people were like, hey, thanks for like keeping the negotiations in the video. Because I would like negotiate for books and I would keep all of that content in the video.
Yeah.
And so people were like, hey, that was like really cool and helpful, like seeing how you negotiate. And so yeah, it just hit. But now I feel like as I'm continuing to try to push the boundaries in the comic space, I feel like I'm kind of hitting a wall of realizing that my YouTube analytics are like 45 to 55, I think is my biggest age range.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The rest is kind of, I have 1% of a 70 plus viewer. Yeah.
That's my
kind of crazy. Yeah, it could be. But anyway, so I feel like the ceiling or the wall that I'm hitting is making new content palatable for an older generation. So I think that typically what we know about older generations is that they like their ways.
Sure. The older you get, the more stuck in your ways you become.
Yeah.
Harder it is to accept new habits, new ways of doing things.
Yeah. And so I think as I continue to like I really thought that AtCon video, the virtual con was going to hit, and it didn't. And
man, that happens so often.
Yeah. And so I've seen a couple of videos like that where I'm like, I don't understand. But I think it's coming down to maybe I'm pushing too hard, too fast for the age range that is my demographic with that content. So
interesting.
Yeah. So at the moment I'm kind of thinking through, like, I haven't even told you any of this, but first time. But yeah, so now I'm thinking through how to kind of bring it all together in a way that's like I'm respecting the old and I'm bringing in new.
Yeah. Man, that's hard. It's hard in the content space to go against the grain, especially when you have like a lot of pride in a hobby, like pride and money invested. Going against the grain can earn you a bad reputation in a community. But I think, one of the things we wanted to talk, I guess the primary thing we wanted to talk about today was just creativity as a whole, but then also more specifically, me and Joshua both have very different journeys on how we like creativity in our personal life and how that has manifest in like a public productivity, career oriented creativity. So I guess we're kind of getting into it already. What do you think drove you toward like regularly practiced like content creativity, like in the comic space? Like what about it gets you the most dedicated to like pumping out stuff?
So I think like when it came to the Genshin or I'll just say Genshin, because Honkai I did a few and a little bit of, but it started with Genshin.
Mm-hmm.
So I said with the Genshin stuff, I was creating content, but I wasn't editing it, and so I wasn't seeing it come to fruition. And I didn't care to edit it either, because I didn't care about the content that much.
Yeah.
But with the comic book stuff, I care about comic books on a base. Like, if there's no such thing as YouTube and Instagram and stuff, I still care about comic books. And so that then lends itself to now that there is YouTube in all these areas to create content, and me already being in the content space, now I can see something that I enjoy and that I like have a passion for, and creating content out of that. And so then when I create the content out of it, then I don't want to hand that to anybody. I don't want to give that to anybody to edit. So then I edit it all myself. And then at the end of it, I see a completed project, and that is satisfying.
Totally.
So I'd say it starts with just a base love for the hobby, and then it kind of like splits itself into like different avenues of like, creating a space where people can experience something that they can't experience in person, or just like having a fun time recording and looking back like on my own footage.
Yeah, reliving it.
And not even on just like a reliving type space, but like when it comes to the negotiations, like learning, like seeing where I messed
watching
up.
film.
Yeah, no, literally like seeing like where I messed up, where I could have done better, like where I did do well, those types of things. And then a few other ways that it's like practically like fun and helpful to make the content. And then at the end, just like piecing it all together and then looking at a final project and saying like this felt good to make. And I'm happy to put this out.
Yeah. That's very cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I've experienced that with I would say at the beginning of my gaming career, I was really like, especially in the first year or so of Genshin Impact, I was so enthusiastic about the game, almost on every level. Like the gacha component, obviously it was my first taste of gacha. So it got, it was something that I had never experienced. So, you can do with that what you will. But the open world component, the story, I was so gripped by it, and it was so easy to make content from start to finish. It was so easy to like, at the time, I didn't really even need to come up with ideas because I was so enthusiastic about the game and other people were so enthusiastic. It was so easy to just stream and spend long hours in like my office dungeon to pump out videos. And I think when you combine something that you love, like what you said, when you start with a baseline of like, I love and have a passion for XYZ, whatever it is, it is easy to, I guess, push yourself past even what you perceive your limits to be. One thing I've realized is that obsession is like a huge part of how creativity, like if you want to turn a creative field or creative interest into a career of some kind or into a side hustle, I think there is a level of like obsession or like fixation. Maybe that's not required, but it kind of just happens naturally. And you will see that in comparison to like if you're trying to force work out of something that's not.
Yeah.
Doesn't really like grip your spirits. And I think through my time in the gaming space, I still love gaming, but I feel a little bit more removed from just like I don't feel the same like thrill that I feel. But I feel that I have started to feel that again, but with more personal content, with my current big interests, books, gardening, just vlogs and life. It's so easy for me to sit down and edit for, I don't know, 2-3 hours until I realize I have to pee or eat or something like that.
Yeah. So I feel like this is something that I've always, what's the right word that I'm looking for?
Admired. Appreciated.
Admired is a good word. I would also say envied. From you is that you like the roller coaster of like your creative journey. You've stayed like very consistent and like have kind of like kept your head down and been bullish through everything. So like, how? How?
How? Oh,
because
man.
that's like the second that I start to like lose that passion of creativity, like I really get in my own head. And then I started thinking like, it's just doomed. Like
So is it normally caused by you losing interest in something, or is it more like the feedback isn't as strong as you wanted it to be?
Well,
do you know what causes it?
Well,
I mean, I could talk just about my experience, but I'm curious.
Let me answer after, like, you talk about your experience. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Because I feel like that's a quality that, like, a lot of, like, young content creators or even just, like, young personal creators, like, whether it's, like, writing or art, and they're not wanting to create content out of it, it's, like, how do you get through the life of creativity? Like, that comes with the good and the bad.
Well, for one, just to ease probably a big question. I don't feel the same all the time. And I think for one, I recognize that my emotions are going to fluctuate and my levels of enthusiasm about the game, about whatever the subject matter is, it's going to fluctuate.
Yeah.
I think what has helped me the most, or what has kept me on track the most, is thinking about my audience and always viewing content creation as a service to the people who want to consume it. And I think that could be applied to any field, like any form of creative field. Yes, you could say that you're doing what you're doing for you, but it's ultimately always about the audience, and it's always about the person who's receiving like the fruits of your whatever your labor is. So I think there have been times where when my like heart is totally like locked into a subject matter, obviously it's easy in those times, but I think I've seen myself ebb and flow so many times in my life, and I recognize that my interests fluctuate. But I'm also like, I take that in stride, and I understand that that's just always going to be part of it. So it's truly like a mind over matter type of response. If I don't feel into it, that's fine. Maybe I lower my output a little bit, but I'm still going to put out ideally like one gaming video a week.
Yeah.
It's not, maybe my heart is not 100% in it, but I know that's going to change. So I can look forward to the future of like, if I remain consistent and I trust that those those like happy fuzzy feelings are going to come back. And if they don't, then, you know, if I've continued to like commit to something, to commit to a creative path, and over long periods of time, my enjoyment is not returning, then at that point it's time to like analyze, is there an outside reason that I'm struggling with this? Is it like a fear-based? Is it like an ego or pride thing? Am I putting my best foot forward? Am I like really happy with what I'm putting out? Am I exercising my creative muscles? Is there an outside factor outside of my career that's putting a strain on it? Like answering those questions. Is there another reason that I'm not enthusiastic? And then at the end of all that, I don't think I've had this happen except before I was a content creator, and it wasn't really a creative thing. It was like I wanted to teach English in Korea, and I was so dead set on that. And through a course of events, long story, I could tell some other time, my interest just completely dropped in it. And I did everything I could to try to understand why that was. I like kept consuming like Korean media, and I looked at like travel videos. I looked at schools. Like I kept proceeding down the path. And I went to a TESOL, teaching English as a second language, introductory like seminar for a program to get licensed. And I went and I just like felt nothing. And I remember walking around the campus, just dealing with the feeling of like, oh man, this interest that I was so dead set on has been taken away from me, and I don't know why. And at that time, I think I just had to accept it. So bringing that back to current stuff, if I reach that point with a game or with a subject matter, I think I have to just bet on myself and my ability to transition from one creative field to another, because I've done it multiple times already and I've seen success in multiple areas of YouTube and TikTok. So most of the time there is an outside reason that my emotions or my excitement about something is fluctuating. And it's a mind over matter. I know it will end, and if it doesn't, then like I'll deal with it then. But you can't be dependent on your emotions, and you're like you can't be totally dependent on how you feel to pursue anything, I think. Yeah.
That's a message that the like culture teaches, is to just like follow your heart and like follow your emotions and
do what feels right.
Yeah. And I feel like it's just like my emotions lie to me all the time.
Absolutely.
And so there's definitely times where like there's a gut feeling that you just kind of have to like chase for sure, or like follow that instinct. But as a general rule of thumb, like goodness gracious.
Yeah.
No.
Maybe follow your heart when you're when you're getting started. I think all of my content has come as a result. All of my success has come as a result of following my heart in some way. Like my heart is led toward, in the early days, it was more personal, reflective, emotional, written word type content. And then it was gaming, and I followed my heart toward Genshin Impact, even though at the time my viewership and my chat engagement went down. Now, when I say went down, I meant went down from 60 average viewers to 45 average viewers. So it really wasn't that big of a deal at the time, but I was so excited about the game, and I thought it was so great, and it was exactly what I wanted. And it allowed me to connect with my audience and casually play a game, but it also had a strong story element. Yeah. So I felt that, but it wasn't just purely an emotions thing. It was like this feels right because of X, Y, Z, and I think it's worth pursuing because I want to, and because the components lead to potentially a really good future. at the time I had no idea that it was going to be a global sensation. So I kind of lucked out on that one.
Yeah.
Or my gut instinct was right. You could say it that way.
Yeah.
To give, I guess, my brain a little bit more credit. But yeah, I think every branch of my content career has been some sort of following my heart, but I haven't followed my heart when I just want to quit something or I get scared.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I would have amounted to anything on YouTube or Twitch or anywhere if I had just let my heart lead instead of wisdom.
Yeah. Yeah. That's where I feel like I've fallen short a couple times. Like, where I've kind of given into that. And then just that, like, last year, I feel like that led me to, like, a significant period of just, like, wrestling through anxiety and fear of, like, not being able to accomplish something. And took a while for me to get out of it, honestly. I just think it was a lot of, like,
I remember.
Honestly, just like prayer and kind of waiting for the dust to settle with those emotions.
So you can look at them clearly.
Yeah. And so, like, that just means that sitting in the midst of, like, raw emotions and just, like, dealing with them, like,
not solving them with some other, like, pursuit that might entertain for a time.
Yeah. So, like, when the dust settled on that, and just feel like God gave me clarity on a lot of those things. Then,
like, I had the
the
same experience with when my teaching English thing. I think I really needed to be stripped of a lot of my external identities that I'd put too much stock into, and really be just brought down to my core.
Yeah.
And then my passions were shifted and supplemented, and I could not have imagined that this is where I was going to end up. I would have never met you if I went to Korea.
Sure.
So that alone is enough reason that I'm glad God took that desire away from me.
Yeah. So when the dust had settled and I was able to, like, stand up and kind of look back at all the things that I was worrying about, and, like, especially the things pertaining to, like, creativity and profession and things like that, I looked at my comic book channel and I just saw all the opportunity there. And yeah, that's just kind of like when I took the first step to taking it more serious.
Do you think you've identified what was the core reason that you have kind of bounced from career path to career path, or maybe like creative path?
Yeah, I think I'm just like, so when I said earlier that, like, to my own fault, like, I've given into those feelings, I feel like when I get bored or hesitate, that's when I, like, start to question, like, you know, purpose, so to say. Like, is this what I'm meant to do? Is this where I'm supposed to be? And so I think you can have passion for things and they don't necessarily have to be, like, professional. And I think for a while, I definitely thought that, like, a passion meant professional.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Like, I knew you could have hobbies, but I always felt like there was just, like, a bit of a difference between, like, passion for a hobby as opposed to passion. So I really had to, like, identify, like, what like that felt like what having a hobby felt like, what having like a passion for this as work felt like.
Yeah.
And so,
because when you make something when something goes from a hobby to a professional pursuit, there's a level of, like, responsibility, and you have to put parameters on yourself.
yeah.
Otherwise, you're not going to, like, if it's professional pursuit, you can't really come back to it or leave it and come back to it the same way you could with a hobby. And the purpose is different.
Yeah.
So keeping those in balance is really hard.
Yeah. So I think, like, like, I've told my Discord this, because I know there's a handful of people that like enjoy watching my streams and enjoy like my content. And so I've told them like, I'm not necessarily done here, but I need to go do this. And once I have a handle on this, then I'll be back over here.
Sure.
Because I think both are doable at the same time. But I think myself, I am as guilty as ever for stretching myself thin and trying to do too many things at once. And that's part of like finding my passion.
Yeah.
And so like,
I do the same thing.
I could easily do it all at once, but I'm going to burn out. And I've let myself do that in the past. And then that puts me in the space where I'm not creating anything for a couple months because I'm confused and I'm hesitating and all these things. So, as of right now, I'm getting to a rhythm of this comic book podcast with your dad, filming weekly, coordinating with him, creating an outline for our weekly conversation, editing it, and then uploading it. And once I feel like I have a routine with that, then at that point I'm going to start like extending into new areas or revisiting areas of content creating. But because I've told you this and I've told your dad this, like I fully believe in the legs that podcast has.
Yeah, and you should.
And I believe in what's possible with that. And so I need to give it the right attention. Yeah. I can't give it split attention. Like if I'm going to say that and if I'm going to believe it, then I have to act it too.
Right. The follow through is so important.
Yeah.
The follow through is everything. Otherwise it's just talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to blow my nose. Give me 1 second.
Okay. Wonder if you guys will be able to hear him blowing his nose. Some say it sounds like a trumpet or an elephant. One more time. Yeah, I think this is kind of an interesting age because the internet, it used to kind of be like we were all on social media and then some people were content creators, but now it's like if you're on TikTok, we're in the age of like the micro influencer, micro content creator. Like basically anyone who has a good, even the smallest piece of good content or something to entertain people, it can go viral in an instant, like overnight. Someone who nobody knows can amass hundreds of thousands of followers. So I know this is, I'm sure there's a lot of people who are listening to this who are either content creators now or are interested in becoming content creators. So I hope that this is relevant and interesting to you. But in any creative space, I think it's so important to recognize that every person contains multitudes and like your interests are going to ebb and flow, and that's not a bad thing. And if you're just enjoying your hobbies and don't, Joshua just broke his microphone. If you're just doing it for fun, do it for fun. But if you want to become great at something, or if you want to reach the world with something, there's a level of commitment and drive that you have to stick to, even when you get anxious, even when you get hesitant, even when the numbers don't look as good as you thought they would. You can't let anything stop you from moving forward. Obviously, you learn from what's not being received well. You take everything in stride, you learn from it, you digest it, and then you keep pushing. And eventually, in my experience, commitment and creativity kind of feed into each other. And it becomes this cycle that keeps moving yourself forward. There have been times where I've not been super enthusiastic about streaming, but I was like, okay, my main YouTube channel, I should keep uploading onto that channel. So let me come up with an idea and I'll record it and put it on YouTube. And maybe my heart wasn't in it to start with, but my heart was in it at the end. My heart was in it when I was recording, and I'm laughing my head off watching the fully edited video. So even like pushing through those tough feelings can be and probably will be rewarded in some way. And yeah, you use your heart, but don't rely on it.
So I'll give you an example of something that like I've experienced the last couple of weeks, but I like had a full realization of it last night, like right before I went to bed. So, you know, I've done gaming content, and like when I've hit walls with the gaming content, it didn't like really matter much. And I didn't like, or it was like, I don't understand what's wrong. Like this should be making sense. And that was kind of it. And then I've done other types of content, but it's like, I could tell that I wasn't like, I love coffee and I've made a few coffee content, but then I quickly realized like, no, this is something that I just like love that
yourself.
Yeah, this doesn't need to be part of like, I don't need to make content with this, but with the comic book stuff. So I was just like looking at all my videos last night, and then I saw that virtual Comic-Con video. And again, like I had the thought, like, I'm so confused how this like didn't take off. Like, because I put a lot into that video, and I think that the concept was like really cool. And so anyways, my thought wasn't immediately like, dang, why didn't this work out well? Oh, okay, well, like whatever. Like,
Guess I suck.
I'm just not gonna make it. My thought was, okay, like I need to figure out what I missed, and then work on that on the next video. And then my follow-up thought was, and then I just need to keep creating more content, because I need to pump out more shorts, because that in turn will help people see my channel, and then they'll click on my channel and they'll go back and watch all my videos.
Absolutely.
So it was like a inactive, like there's a hurdle in front of me, and instead of like turning around and running the track the other way, or just like sitting down crisscross in front of it, like I feel like I would have even like as of late last year, like I feel like I ran up to the hurdle and I saw it, and I had a moment of like, I've been here before. And instead of sitting down or just like turning around and walking away, I feel like I turned around, put myself in a place where I can get the same momentum again. And now I'm like running, and I'm going to jump the hurdle. And I'm not like scared of that hurdle anymore.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
That probably felt really good.
Yeah. Yeah. It was last night. And then I did not want to go to bed, but I was just like, no, I need to go to bed, because if I'm going to do what I just thought of, well, like I need rest.
Right.
And that's something that I like now need to prioritize more.
Yeah.
And so at night I'm going to put my phone on like black and white.
Oh yeah.
Grayscale. And that way it's not like engaging with my brain. And
that's so smart.
Yeah.
I should have asked last night. Josh was on his phone, I was on his phone, and I like turned off all the lights because I was gonna close my eyes and go to sleep. And I just hear him go, "The whole world is in black and white." Because his phone, he like showed me his phone, because it's all pitch black, there's no other color in the room, and it created this illusion of the whole universe had lost its color.
Yeah, because anything that had like a pillowcase that had color, all of a sudden didn't.
Right.
It was just like a shadow, so nothing had color. And my phone didn't have color. So I felt like, what's that one Tobey Maguire movie? It's a book, The Giver?
Yeah.
Is that it?
Tobey Maguire?
Yeah.
Is he in that?
I think so.
But yeah, The Giver is what you're thinking.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he's in that, but yeah.
You're probably right.
Black and white.
It's been a long time since I've seen it.
Let me see.
Dang, that's really cool.
Tobey Maguire.
Toby.
Oh no, Pleasantville.
I've never seen it.
Oh wait, no, The Giver.
Oh. I'm not very good with celebrity names. Like I just don't memorize them ever. So when someone is like, "Oh my gosh, there's a new blah 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 movie coming," I'm like, "Great, awesome! I can't wait."
Oh no, Pleasantville. Yeah, it is Pleasantville. Is it like inspired by The Giver?
I've never seen it.
I don't know. Whatever.
Anyway, that's huge.
Yeah.
And it's, the hurdles are going to be there, and how you deal with them is like, that's going to define your success. And it's going to build up your tolerance for setbacks, because setbacks, they're in any sort of endeavor, there's setbacks that you can anticipate. And then there are setbacks that will come from out of nowhere. And how you deal with the small setbacks will define how you deal with the big ones.
For sure.
And I'm grateful for all the little hurdles that happened just throughout my life, but through my content career that served as tests for future ones, and for ones that I don't know are coming still.
Yeah. I think it's just like a general, like, good rule of thumb that like how you respond in the small minor moments is like how you're going to respond when those big moments come through.
Yes.
That
You
doesn't
set
mean
small habits and
Yeah. That doesn't mean that you have to respond perfectly when the first small moment happens, but it's like having the ability to look back at those moments and be like, oh yeah, I didn't respond well.
Yeah.
So the next time that happens, like, I know what to expect.
Right. And you can, a lot of making tough decisions involves fighting your emotions, or accepting that your emotions are one way, but that wisdom would guide you in a different way. Making decisions that are contrary to your feelings are huge.
Yeah.
And I think our society places too much stock in your feelings.
Yeah.
That your feelings are what's right and what's trustworthy. But if I can speak just for myself, my feelings are not trustworthy. And it doesn't take much of considering and storing up wisdom to realize that many emotions or feelings or impulses that I had were not the right choice. So yeah, don't listen to your feelings, but don't do everything they say.
Yeah.
Just think it through first.
Yeah.
Be patient when those hurdles come through. And if you don't respond perfectly, that's okay. There are so many opportunities.
Yeah, you're going to mess up. You're going to fail. Like, you're going to
realize. Do things you regret.
Yeah, for sure.
Or not do things that you regret. Or not do things you wish you had done.
Yeah.
But you can't let those weigh you down. You learn from them.
Yeah.
You put them in your backpack and you keep moving.
Yeah. You'll learn, like, to be successful and to just grow as a person. Like, you have to fail.
Of course.
I would say there's probably, I'm not going to say there's none. So I'll say there's a few, but there's few stories of people who are successful who are like, I got it right first try.
Yep. Like, it's perfect, smooth sailing from start to finish.
I killed it. Yeah. I killed it right off the bat. And now I'm reaping all the benefits of that. Like, that's just not.
Nope.
Even from the big corporate tech agents that everyone hates. Like, for them to be successful and get to where they were, like, they had to mess up to get there. And from the smallest content creator that finds success and joy in what they do, like, they had to fail and mess up content until they could find joy and happiness in what they do.
You post 20 pieces of garbage and you get one, and you post one diamond, and you study that diamond and you see what worked and what ultimately, what value does it provide to the person who's absorbing it.
Yeah.
And that will tell you everything you need to know about your next step forward. And failure is also really freeing. Like having something flop or experiencing some kind of hurdle and accepting negative results and just like moving past it, it will build up your confidence for the future.
Yeah.
And being on the flip side, being terrified of failure, of any sort of downturn, is absolutely paralyzing and will make you do things out of character, and make you act based on your feelings because you're so scared of something, of losing whatever it is that you hold so dearly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another lesson, and don't let your emotions control you.
Yeah.
Yeah. You and I have had very different journeys in content and in creativity. Though we both had creative roots, like both of us wrote a lot, like journaled and wrote poetry when we were in high school, like before we knew each other. Was it in high school for you or more in college?
More in college.
And for me, it was, I love being scrappy. I love taking advantage and turning something small into something big. Like I absolutely adore that challenge. And that is absolutely what happened at the beginning of my career. Like I got a small taste of like, oh, this is what it feels to reach people and create something that benefits somebody else. And I loved that feeling. And I loved the feeling of stretching myself and having like a little side hustle when I was working a full-time job. Something that was totally me and at the time wasn't making a cent. It was purely for the love of it. And then when the rug got pulled out from under me because of COVID, then it became a challenge. Like I've sunk my entire brain space into Animal Crossing. And through the combination of that and Joshua introducing me to the Twitch world, I found a way to connect those two things. And every branch off has been some sort of like, I see something here. I have a passion for something, and passion resonates with people. Passion and drive, that's like part of what makes us human. So if there's a story to tell, there's something to be made for someone else. So that is what has driven me, I think, down like my main path, but also through all the little branches.
Yeah.
And for you, it's been more like, I don't know, how would you describe your path?
Just a lot of testing the waters.
Yeah, figuring out.
Like it sounds like you kind of learned that lesson of like hitting walls of emotions in work earlier than I did.
Yes,
But
I did.
That's mostly because I dropped out of college, and so I had to become a corporate shill.
Yeah, he was at a job that he absolutely hated.
Yeah, and that was fine. Like I knew, like I had no problem doing it, even though like I didn't like it. But then there came a point where the door was opened to take a risk, to take a leap, and it could have waited, like for sure, like but I had to learn a lot in that time, from that time to now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it sounds like you learned that lesson with the whole T-Soul thing.
I did. That was very hard.
And I had to learn it as recently as last year. Like, and so, yeah, our journeys are completely different, but like we're still here, and look at us now.
Yeah. And you had faith in me, and saw the seeds of something really good when you initiated us moving into a 2-bedroom so that I could have my own office. And now I'm glad that we're able to do that for you now and let you have your own creative space. And I hope that you feel that vote of confidence from me. Like I fully believe that you have a story to tell and that you have the ability to tell it.
Yeah. I do believe that. Thank you. To pivot us out of a serious conversation to a more lighthearted one. I have to say, because you mentioned me introducing you to the Twitch space, And I feel like I have to say this publicly. I've said this to you a couple times. But I don't think people understand how massive of a game Fortnite was. But more importantly, the cultural impact that Ninja had on this space. Like,
thanks, Ninja.
If it wasn't for Fortnite, and then if it wasn't for Ninja, would Dish be here?
I don't think so. Fortnite was my first introduction to Twitch.
That's how I learned of Twitch. And that's how I watched Ninja and Tim the Tatman and Courage and Dr. Lupo back in the OG days. So if it wasn't for them, like, I don't know where we would be. And I think people like dog on Ninja a lot these days, and he is like,
he has had some millennial cringe moments.
Yeah, he's definitely like, he's had his, like, he's shown his age.
Yeah.
But I think, like, you kind of got to give the man his flowers for, like, what he's done in this space. Because I think he influenced, I would say, an entire generation of Twitch streamers.
Oh, absolutely. He paved the way.
Yeah.
And he broadened Twitch's horizons like crazy.
Yeah.
Like people who weren't really into gaming, like just a couple bros decided to get on their whatever platform of choice and play Fortnite together because it's fun. And then that just introduces people into this, like, what used to be very underground, like, gaming world. And it's so much bigger now. So no, I don't think I would be here without Ninja, because I don't think you would have gotten into Twitch or interested in Twitch streaming.
No, probably not.
And then that led to me getting interested in Twitch streaming. He's also the reason I downloaded TikTok, so it all started there. Yeah. I don't know what would have happened otherwise. So
I just had to give the man his flowers because I feel like
he does get dogged on a lot.
I feel like
sometimes he deserves it.
Yeah, I just feel like especially recently he's been made fun of a lot, but yeah, got to give credit where credit's due. He
paved the way.
Inspired an entire generation to do this for a living.
I'd never watched gaming videos, but I couldn't even tell you who it was, but I watched these 3 random people play Fortnite because the game was funny and they were funny. Yeah. And I wasn't even playing. The cultural impact of Fortnite and Ninja.
Yeah. We like Fortnite. We like Fortnite.
We like Fortnite.
I miss OG Fortnite.
We should play Fortnite. Honestly, you should teach me how to play it.
I don't know what the state of the game is, but the last time I played it was dog water. So
no.
I was like, not this maybe like 2 seasons ago. I don't know.
We played the Lego one.
That was fun.
Lego Fortnite for like a couple days. It was pretty fun.
Yeah.
I remember risking my life multiple times going on a mining expedition and then realizing I didn't have like the materials to harvest the rocks. So it was a fun little concept.
Yeah.
Speaking of gaming, should we shall we discuss some current events in the Genshin Impact space?
Let's do it.
So I'm actually glad. I have not talked about this. I haven't even watched the special program for the next patch.
Wait, is the next patch?
No, not Natlan. There was just a Natlan teaser. Okay. I should just record my screen.
So for context, I haven't seen.
Yes, I have seen the Natlan trailer. I've been engaging with, well, not engaging. I haven't really posted or said anything or made any sort of statement, but I've been liking tweets and retweeting some stuff regarding the character reveals from the Natlan teaser. So I'm just going to show you. Okay, don't scroll past.
I haven't seen anything.
He has not seen anything.
That's how into this comic grind I've been.
Yeah, he's not even paying attention to Genshin anymore. So I'm going to show you 3 pictures of 3 characters.
Okay.
And I want you to tell me what you think. Don't scroll past the 3rd picture.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, the mic is in the way. Nice.
Thoughts? You like them, right?
Yeah, they look great.
Look good.
I like that guy.
These are edited. This is the real characters.
Oh.
I found these pictures with a tweet that said, "It's not that hard." Thoughts? Maybe I should give you some context. So Natlan, from what we can see, is based on pre-Columbian civilizations in Latin America, Africa, and Hispanic and Aboriginal Australia. There's been a couple...
Australia?
Yeah, Aboriginal Australia. There's some indicators. This is, at very least from the teaser, we can see the vision is based on what looks like the Aztec calendar. We can see back in this picture, here's the 3 playable characters. And then here's the enemy.
Oh.
With dark skin and locks.
Okay.
You can see the locks more clearly in this picture.
Oh. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Okay, so for those of you that don't know, I am Mexican.
Yes, Mexican.
And I grew up in LA, so I'm very like LA Hispanic culture. I grew up in a section of LA that's predominantly Hispanic, so I grew up around I grew up like in the very SoCal LA culture of Hispanic. And so I'm going to be honest, when I saw this, now I'm kind of sad, because when I saw that picture, my immediate thought was like, oh, he looks like really cool, and like his hair is like shaggy like mine. Like,
yeah,
that's like,
yeah,
in summertime, like that's like the
that's how your skin looks.
Yeah, my skin changes so much throughout the year though, because
he gets a tan
hermits.
insanely fast though.
Yeah.
Like we go to the beach once and he's
and
dropped like two foundation shades.
Yeah. So I saw that and I was like, oh, like
He looks
shaggy
like
hair
me.
like me. He kind of looks like me, and he just like is dripped out.
Yeah, he
so
is.
I was like, that looks cool. And then you showed me this, and then I was like, oh, I have nothing to do with this.
That's a
like,
white boy.
That's Venti in disguise. Like,
yep.
So that made me sad.
Yeah.
Because I would have pulled for this character.
Yeah, these
Simply
look great,
because-
don't they?
Yeah.
And people have made fan arts of these characters. I'll show you. Yeah, I've been interacting with a lot of fan art that have taken these character base models, and 90% of them show them with darker skin.
Yeah.
And people have pointed out that these characters, like the designs, seem like they were designed with darker skin tones in mind.
Yeah.
But then perhaps were changed last minute. Like you can barely see the detail markings on her skin.
Yeah.
You can barely see them with this pale skin tone. So this has sparked a lot of discussion on Twitter and elsewhere. Not the first time this discussion has been opened, because it opened a lot with Sumeru when we saw dark-skinned enemies, dark-skinned NPCs, but paper white playable characters, excluding Sino and Dea. So here, I'll show you this also. This is the current color palette of playable characters. These are the 3 characters that were revealed in the trailer. To this day, Kaya still has the brownest, Kaya and Shinyan, I would say, of different tones, but
Yeah.
the closest to a brown skin color.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang, Yai is white.
Yai is actually paper white, same as Tignati. Yeah, so this has been an interesting discussion. I'm still like, there's a dark-skinned NPC from HSR. Yeah, any thoughts? Any opening thoughts on this?
So for me personally, I am not one. I'm not trying to be divisive here.
It's okay.
I'm not one who needs like representation. I don't need to see myself or someone like me. take note of my words. I don't need it, like, because I have like my own family and my own culture, and like
you personally don't feel that need.
Yeah. But that doesn't mean that I don't think that it's cool when I see those things, or that it's like there's like a good feeling that comes with it, but I don't need it to survive or to like get through my day to day, or like to consume media. Like it's not something that I like need. But I will like, I say that to say that like it felt cool to see this.
Yeah, and you felt that
it
pulled out from under you.
Yeah, it didn't feel cool to see this as somebody who's not like, I'm not big into like seeing people like me and my culture. My family's crazy, so maybe that's a little bit why. Like
that's true. Well, it's a little bit of personal, and you don't necessarily live in the context of your own like original culture.
Yeah.
So, but you've experienced a little bit.
Yeah.
Just now by seeing a very cool character who, you know, though there's a lot of differences, reminded you of yourself.
Yeah.
And then you saw that taken away from you.
Yeah.
With this pale, venti type character.
So I think what's frustrating with that is this looks right.
It does look right. That's what people are saying. Is that the color, like the direction, it fits.
Yeah. This looks like appropriation.
It does.
Like, especially if you're going to get into like Maya and Aztec stuff.
And African
which
culture.
Is like very like...
very diverse. Many skin tones represented in those regions.
Not just... not just that, but also just like the... I honestly don't even know what the word is, but like the expression of those cultures, the
cultural garb,
cultural garb, the religion, like and of those cultures, and how that like manifests itself in like the culture that they create. And those things are like so cool and unique. Like, and I think that's just what makes like cultures great, is like
rich history.
Yeah. And getting to be a part of that. And especially when it comes to like, you know, I can only speak for like my own culture because it's what I'm from, but like Mexico and, you know, the Philippines is also part of this, but like the Spanish going and taking over and like snuffing out like that culture. And same with like Africa is
taking the riches of the culture but leaving the people behind.
Yeah. Or taking the people and leaving the culture.
Right. Totally.
And so in this scenario, it's taking the culture but leaving the people.
Yep.
And that's like how can you, as a character designer, how can you use a character designer? Because if you Google these images, like if you Google Mayan and Aztec, this is not the type of person that's going to like pop up.
No, and I did research.
If you look up like Native American or just any sort of native tribe, like you're native. And so like, this just isn't how like your family looks. So it's right. It's appropriation because when you look at this, you are looking at a person and you're looking at that person's physical identity and their culture. And you're saying, I like all of that except for you. And I'm going to take all of that.
Exactly.
And I'm going to put it onto what I think a good physical specimen is.
Right. What I think is beautiful.
Right.
Which is white, pale skin.
Yeah. And that's just like, and you know, it's appropriation when it makes you feel uncomfortable, because I think that you can definitely have like an homage if you're not from that culture, and you can embrace that culture's, you know, like people going to Japan and wearing
wearing kimonos for photos and hanbok in Korea,
those types of things, and so
yes, this is very interesting. And you know, there's so many arguments that this is not a problem. And I really do hope that this is not representative of every character that we're going to see from Natlan. But I can't deny that it feels strange watching a dark-skinned, large man with locks chase around a white girl with like markings on her face that are clearly from an Aboriginal or from an Aztec native tribal culture.
Yeah.
Like that is clear. That is clear messaging.
And there are, I was telling you this, I was telling you this last night. There are like white Hispanics.
Yes.
But they also come with like I have very white,
of course,
fair skin,
and there
cousins.
are white people who live in Africa.
Right. But they definitely, at least in like my family and even like friends that I grew up with, the Hispanics, the people that were like Mexican that looked white, they almost all had the same like characteristics. Like they had like very like red hair.
Oh, right. Yeah, you're saying this.
And like you look at like Canelo Alvarez, the boxer, like he's very white color
with
and
red hair.
He's got like red hair. And so, you know, there's definitely that exists. But
totally. But that is not like, that's probably the biggest argument is that I keep seeing is that Africa and Latin America have pale people. And people said the same thing.
Africa and Latin America also have people of color.
Exactly. That's not a good argument. People said the same thing with Sumeru. South Asia has pale people. North Africa has pale people. But there's no reason for white to be the standard. Like if that's the result of the fact that Genshin and that Hoyoverse is not pulling from one specific region and is combining a bunch, that is not a good excuse.
I could also tell you that like the people who like cousins or like people that I grew up with that were more fair skinned compared to how they, you know, should look because it's their ethnicity. Like they also struggled with like identity, like because people would always tell them like, "Oh, dude, you're not Mexican."
Yeah.
Like
for listeners, he air quoted around should look.
Oh yeah, yeah. Sorry.
We'll say quote unquote. We'll try to say quote unquote.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and I have not to toot my own horn, but I was looking back at the tweets that I posted when it was clearly revealed that there were going to be dark-skinned enemies and dark-skinned NPCs in Sumeru, but not many playable characters, and most of the playable characters were white.
See, that's sorry. I'll let you continue that in a second. But that's the problem. Is like you can have Sumeru or Natlan, whatever. You can have the enemies be brown, but you also have to have the heroes be brown. Like,
exactly. That's so simple.
If you're representing a country, a culture, whatever, sure, make them both brown. Like that's.
Or have both. Have white NPCs and dark NPCs, and white playable characters and dark playable characters.
Like Black Panther, the first movie, the hero was black. The
right.
villain
The
was
was black.
Why? Because it took place in Wakanda.
Right.
And there was also a white villain too that represented
right.
colonization and stealing. But yeah,
right.
the creators of that movie and of the comic book were like, okay, this is taking place in a country we've created that represents Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And so these people are all going to be black. And so we're going to create this hero who comes from there, and his name is Black Panther.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, it wouldn't really make sense for this black hero to come from a country of other black people, and then all of a sudden his villain is white.
Right.
So it's like, okay, so his villain that comes from the same land that he's from is going to be of the same skin tone that he is.
Seems obvious.
But it even logically doesn't make sense where it's like, okay, these people are going to come from this land. The villains are going to be brown. And then somehow everybody that turns out good is just going to be white. Like logically,
right,
that doesn't make any sense.
Or just the slightest, they're going to just have the slightest tan
yeah.
because they are out in the desert. It doesn't work. And it sends a clear message whether, you know, you want to write it off as it's a fantasy world. It's not real. It's not from any particular culture. Like whatever excuse you want to give, having a brown enemy and a white primarily brown enemies or primarily white heroes, that sends a visual message.
Yeah, 100%.
Whether you recognize it as serious or not. And there's a lot of people who don't recognize it serious because they haven't experienced long histories of subliminal racist messaging or colorist messaging, however you want to categorize it. That is clear.
Especially if you were going to take the good from my culture.
You cannot take the culture and leave the people behind.
If you're going to take the good from my culture, and then the one thing you don't like is the fact that me and my people have browner skin, and you're going to put that skin tone on enemies. So it's like you're going to take this like idealized physical look of a person from this culture, and you're going to say these are the good things, and so we're going to give them to the good people. These are the bad things, and so therefore we're going to give them to the bad people.
Right. Like, no playable character is going to have locks, but the primary enemy that we're going to show in this teaser is going to have brown skin and tattoos and locks.
Yeah. You know, I didn't feel, I saw people talking about it, and like I said, I hadn't seen any of the character releases, so I didn't like really feel one way or another about it. But yeah, now I definitely do. That's clear racism.
It is.
Yeah.
It's clear at minimum. It is clear colorism.
Yeah.
And I understand that the beauty standards are different amongst different cultures, and the country of origin that Hoyoverse is designing out of is a largely homogenous country. But Genshin Impact is a global game.
Yeah.
It is huge all over the world. It's huge in America.
It's a global game.
It's huge in Southeast Asia.
In the game, it is global.
Exactly. It is like when it was all 90% white people pale-skinned, I should say. 90% pale-skinned people in Inazuma, fine. 90%, 99% pale people in Liyue, fine. Mondstadt, even, fine. We had Kai, we had playable Shinyen, but yeah, that aside. When we start getting to Sumeru, we're like, okay, this is when we're going to start seeing the significant diversity. And then that didn't happen. And a lot of people were screaming, oh, just wait for Natlan. Just wait for Natlan. That's like, look at this teaser picture. Well, Natlan's here. And these three characters, with one of them having a slight tan, but all of them being very clearly pale. Like, what? That is no longer a good argument. It wasn't in the first place, but it certainly isn't now. Yeah, there's no good reason. There is no good reason for white to be the standard. And that sends a clear message whether you think it does or not. Like Genshin, while, most characters sway pale, like there is a rare person who has skin as pale as Yamiko or skin as pale as Tignati.
It's just crazy because it's just like,
that is just a normal healthy skin color. I'm pointing at Kaya's skin right now. Like that's, we're looking at screen versus real life, but that's just healthy skin with blood in it.
Yeah. It's, man, that's just, you're not even living in the world at that point. Like you're living so far immersed in your own culture. Like that's where like racism and colorism and all that stuff comes from, is like you are not recognizing the world. You are just so immersed in like who you are in your own culture, and that nothing exists outside of it. And so therefore, when you start to see the things that are outside of your culture, like that's when you feel threatened.
Right.
And yeah, it's flat out wrong. Like, and I think the upsetting thing with this is the fact that they're acknowledging that there's good in this culture.
Yes.
And they're splitting hairs.
Right.
And they're intentionally picking things and not picking the other things. Because it's not like an outright hatred for a culture. You're not saying like this entire culture is wrong. It's hidden. It's masked. It's hidden racism, colorism. It's masked. They're trying not to show it, but it's so obvious that they are showing it.
Yeah, it is. And it's it's a question of now, what do you do with this information? For one, I'm really, really, really desperately hoping that these 3 characters are not representative of all of the characters and colors, tones that we are going to see.
Well, and to be fair, what does this say? Like,
not in develop, not it's under development, not indicative of the final product.
So,
is it likely that the skin tones on these 3 characters are going to change? Probably not. However, we're talking about it. People are talking about it. People are complaining and making their issues with it known. And I think that that's a really, I think that's how you cause change, is by demanding better of the things that you like and the things that you engage with. And I hate hearing the, if you don't like it, don't play it argument. Because what good does that do? You know, what movement does that make toward positive change? To just be like, we just have to take whatever we get and deal with it and just stomach it. So I think I'm still chewing on a lot of these things, and I'm probably not going to talk about it on stream. Oh, my camera's dead. That's fine. I'm probably not going to talk about it on stream, but I wanted to at very least talk about it here. And I think it's important that we keep talking about it, not necessarily like on here, but we as a Genshin Impact player base community keep talking about it, because I think that's how change comes about. And if Hoyoverse feels pressure from its audience to create darker skinned playable characters that are good, that can cause a ripple effect of difference, both within the game and in the gaming space as a whole. It's those big, tough decisions, those shocking changes that force things forward. And I think the worst thing you can do is just be silent and take it, or not care, or dismiss other people for caring about it.
Yeah.
Or thinking that it's important, because representation in media, it's a touchy subject, and I think there's room for nuance. But when you're pulling actively from cultures, but you're leaving the skin tone behind, that sends a clear message, and I think that's a clear colorism problem.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I'm also, to kind of add on to what I was saying earlier, like, I'm not, like, if you feel like you need to see representation in media for yourself, like, I'm not dogging on that. It's just like, for me personally,
sure,
it's not something I need to get through my day or to get through my life, like,
right. And I don't,
because I experience my own culture in my own context, and that's enough for me. I like to see good media, like, as long as it's done well, like, that's kind of, but when there's an obvious, like, stealing of culture and neglecting parts of that culture because it doesn't fit your perfect image or
doesn't fit your country's beauty standard.
Yeah. Then at that point, that's where it's like, okay,
well, don't touch the culture at all then.
Yeah, then
if you're not going to take,
then don't come near
the people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think you'll have to follow your own conscience. I think there will be some people who are frustrated enough by this, disappointed enough by this, to just drop the game entirely. That's up to your conscience. At very least, as a content creator, I think I'm going to acknowledge it and give my voice and my take on it. And hope to see change. Even if these 3 characters don't, we're probably going to get what we saw. But the outrage could cause this decision not to be, like, let's say it was a last minute decision to make these characters pale, maybe that won't happen on the next character.
Yeah.
You never know.
I haven't seen it on my TL yet, which I'm surprised. I've seen memes about it, like,
oh yeah, it's a Jeff's tweet.
I saw just a Jeff's tweet, but I haven't really seen any pictures. So as soon as I do, I'm not going to go out and look for it. I'm going to wait for it to naturally come to my TL.
Your phone heard you, so I'm sure you'll get it now.
Yeah, so as soon as I see it, I'm going to quote retweet, and I know what I'm going to say roughly. So
good. I mean, it means a lot, I think, to the people who do desire that representation. Hearing voices of people with some level of influence like that matters.
If you want a nice, diverse, very otherworldly, even type diverse things that are completely fictional.
Yeah.
Come read comics.
Yeah.
All over
comics.
the place. There's a lot of
yeah.
there's a brand new Black Panther run that's going on that's really good. If you're religious, there's Matt Murdock Daredevil, who's got his run going on that's currently wrestling through the 7 deadly sins, and is...
Which you didn't like at first, but now you're maybe coming around on it.
Yeah, I had to be patient. I didn't like it at first, but yeah, I'm coming around to it. You got to be patient with storytelling sometimes, and so I had to give up for a few months, let some stories stack so that I can go and read them all at once. So if you're of Catholic or Protestant faith, the Daredevil run is pretty interesting. Yeah.
And you can consume podcast. You can consume that content on the Comic Room Podcast.
Comic Room Podcast
and
out every Monday.
Right now that the camera is about to die, so I think we should sign off.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening or watching, wherever you're watching.
Thank you.
And I hope you enjoyed. We moved around a lot this podcast.
Yeah.
But I hope that gave you some not motivation, so generic.
Yeah.
Some inspiration.
Yes.
In whatever you're pushing toward in your life. And I hope you get through the rest of this week excellently.
To quote the bear, let it rip.
Let it rip. All right. We'll see you next Wednesday. Bye.
Bye.
Logging off.
Logging off.
Logging off. No,